Seasoner
and Co.
Welcome to
Second-Hand Haunting,
where we read ghost stories from an old second-hand book that I found in a second-hand shop and try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense. Hey, Ollie.
Hey, Callum.
How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Are you ready for another ghost story this week?
I am. And you didn't find this book in a store, did you?
No, you're right. I've been sprung. This is once again Hell House by Alison, Rattle and Allison Vale that was lent to me by Kieran Moffat. I thank him very much. This might be the last story we get to read from this book, so I figured, why not do another Australian story?
I've been really enjoying the Australian stories.
Me too. And since it's possibly our last time we can use this book, we're going to go big.
Just so you know, I'm going to miss this book. This book has big red eyes that stare deep into your soul. And there was something very intriguing about it. It felt like the Necronomicon.
Necronomicon?
Necronomicon?
Yeah.
Necronomicon. It looks like it had some very dark magic in it.
Yeah, and some very dark themes, if you remember last fortnight's episode about the prison at Port Arthur.
Yeah. Very much gonna miss the book and miss the stories, but you know, that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say.
I'm sure I can borrow it again. But for now, it will become apparent why we are going to do Monte Cristo in Junee, New South Wales. Just off the Hume Highway in New South Wales, a short distance from Wagga Wagga, is the quaint, sleepy town of Junee. Look, I at least know how to pronounce these names, unlike the English ones that keep coming up, so I appreciate that, at least.
I can pronounce Wagga Wagga too.
Oh, did I do it wrong?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, first of all, I think it's a funny name.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to say it. I'm sorry.
Say it as much as you like. Get it out of your system.
Wagga Wagga.
Wagga Wagga. Drive through the peaceful streets and you will be stopped in your tracks by the sight of an imposing mansion squatting high on a hill, casting its gloomy shadow down on the town and its residents. This is the infamous Monte Cristo, Australia's most haunted house.
Ooh.
Over countless years, this dark and brooding homestead has been plagued by a catalogue of ghastly incidents and horrific deaths. At least 7 ghoulish residents are reputed to be at large in both the house and the grounds. So it's not just within the walls. It's, we've got ghosts within the ill-defined geofence again this time.
It's a funny thing, isn't it, that ghosts tend to be trapped within an area. Do you think the ghosts just don't want to stray too far away?
Yeah. I don't think the ghosts want anything, frankly.
Or they're
aside to be laid to rest.
Or they're tethered by some sort of ectoplasm string back to a central point.
Sure. Monte Cristo, meaning Mount of Christ, was built in 1884 by Christopher William Crawley, a local farmer whose luck changed when he acquired some land under the provision of Robertson's Act of 1861. He was married to Elizabeth, a hard and brutal woman who ruled her household with an iron fist. All right, do you think she's going to be a ghost, or do you think she's going to make some?
Oh, look, it could go either way. Could be both. Could be both. I'm going to bet on both.
Okay, all right, I'll pay that. Yep.
You know, more ghosts is better than less ghosts.
Yeah. For the 7 of them, apparently, so... She habitually wore black lace dresses, lace caps, and a cape with a stand-up beaded collar. Oh, that is some fashion sense, that is.
It actually sounds evil. Like
yeah.
I feel like it's like an evil character out of a Disney movie.
Yeah, the Cruella de Vil of Monte Cristo.
Indeed.
Oh, brilliant. It's not just us who think it's ridiculous, because local residents laughed behind her back and took to calling her Queen Victoria in private. Oh. Look, there are some things that I never want to change in Australia. And being smarmy dick heads to imperious jerks is one of them.
One of the things that I found really funny recently was news articles that were making light of how out of place Hollywood celebrities are when they're in Australia. Like, at least when they're in public, because they were talking about how in America they have a lot of like gated communities where, you know, celebrities can live, or entire cities that are somehow protected.
Yeah, so the upper crust are just totally separated from the rest of the riffraff.
Yeah, whereas we just don't have that here. Well,
maybe Sydney.
Maybe Sydney, but certainly not to the same degree. I'm sure they've got their own like buildings potentially, but not like suburbs.
Yeah, probably. Unless they're so well hidden, we don't know about them.
And I've seen like a lot of articles about how they have Hollywood celebrities having to like shop in like Australian supermarkets because there's nowhere else to go.
Taylor Swift found at Woolies. I don't know if that's a thing, but I would believe it. Christopher Crawley died at Monte Cristo on December 14th, 1910, at age 69. So that's probably just natural causes, right? That's a fair innings.
Hey, 69 is not too bad.
Yeah. Especially for 1910.
Oh, 100%. Like, you know, 69 can still be relatively good for today's age, not to place any numbers on anybody, but
are we both just having little mini midlife crisis here?
Yeah, well, I've had a friend tell me before they thought they were having a midlife crisis when they were like 35, and I'm pretty sure that the idea of a midlife crisis is around 50. So I think it's supposed to be based on the idea that you live to 100.
Sure.
And I think that the justification that person made was that they weren't optimistic. You know, like, I'll probably only live till 70 anyway.
Sure.
So
Yep. Okay.
So this is, let's like check back with me on how you feel at 50, and we'll see.
It gets worse from here, mate. The constant rubbing of his starched collars resulted in a gangrenous abscess on his neck, which in turn caused his heart to fail.
You'd think that, like, at that level of wealth, that he could just afford to get a silk shirt and maybe not rip at it. Like, Jesus.
That's rough, man. Does this make him Australia's first fashion victim? No, of course not. His wife was.
Oh, God. I may have found that more amusing than I should, but like, it was just so on point. Loved it.
Following his death, Elizabeth retreated into deep mourning, converting an upstairs box room into a chapel that she rarely left. In fact, she is reputed to have left the homestead only twice in the 23 years between her husband's death and her own death, from a ruptured appendix on August 12th, 1933, at age 92.
That could have been treated.
Yeah, true. When you're 92, I think that carries some serious risks with it anyway, doesn't it?
Oh, well, I'm just saying a burst appendix is something that couldn't be,
it's
you
fixable.
You usually go to a hospital before it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Once it's burst, I'm not sure if anyone can survive that. Like, if you don't get treated before it bursts.
Yeah. And also, I don't know when appendectomies were invented and if it's before or after 1933.
Okay.
But even if it was invented back in 1933, I think they would hesitate to perform that on someone who is 92. If she ever left her chapel anyway.
Not to split hairs about this, but if it's the choice between certain death and operation, I'd choose operation.
I mean, I think that would depend on the individual person, and someone who didn't leave a room because her husband died 20 odd years earlier, maybe not looking to live for much longer.
Yeah, I feel like we are splitting hairs here anyway, because you might be at that age and then have like a random pain and be like, oh, it's probably just a random pain. I don't know. I could actually be quite dramatic when it comes to medical things.
Getting struck down by the man flu.
Well, something like that. But I think that when I was younger, if I had even the slightest of pain, I would be like off to the hospital. Mm-hmm. What would they call it?
Do you mean hypochondria?
Thank you, yes. So
little Ollie was a real hypochondriac?
Yeah. But I sometimes wondered whether being a hypochondriac can be good in a way because it means that, like, worst case scenario, you've had a look into something, right? So if it was the thing that you thought it was, then
means you're less likely to end up dead from something that you're ignoring.
Exactly.
More likely to get Medicare bulk billing cancelled for the rest of us.
Lols. Yeah, so I think I often joke that I still have a tendency in my mind still to this day to, tend towards the worst case scenario. I have a bit of a cough and I'll be like, it's probably lung cancer.
I stubbed my toe. It's falling off. My collar's too tight. That's fine. I don't need to go to the doctor for that.
Then, on the other hand, there could be times where you don't go to the doctor, and it is something serious. You know what? It's hard to find a balance.
Yeah. One way or the other, you may end up as a ghost in Monte Cristo. In 1948, the last of the Crawleys left the homestead, and Monte Cristo fell victim to rot and vandalism.
Do you think they were creepy?
Creepy Crawleys? Aren't the Crawleys the family from Downton Abbey?
I could honestly say that I've not watched that, so I'm certainly not the expert here.
I can honestly say I have watched it all, and it's a little ashaming that I can't remember the family's surname, but there you go.
Wow, sounds like a riveting show. I'm always looking for something to watch. So
yeah, that's like class differences in like an old house in the 1900s. But then at the end of season 1, like World War I happens, and it's like, okay, what does that realistically mean for everyone involved in the show? And they do some fun, interesting things with the societal upheavals of the early 1900s.
I really try and reel myself back from just talking about all the television and movies that I've watched because it's
moving on.
Because it's been substantial, but it kind of reminds me of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because that was World War One, wasn't it, or World War II?
I couldn't tell you. I know it was Christian.
Sorry,
like not even a Christian allegory. Like I'm pretty sure Aslan at some point says, "Oh, in your world, I'm known by the name Jesus." No,
but it was why they got sent to the house. So,
I see. Okay.
So, the children were sent to live with a relative.
Yep. The bombing of London begins. They send the kids out to the countryside for safety.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine bombing in London today.
Yeah.
That feels like that would be World War III, right?
Or just a real bad stand-up tour.
Hey.
Years later, in 1955, Reginald Ryan, a tailor from Wagga Wagga, drove past Monte Cristo and felt an instant but eerie connection. He somehow knew he was destined to live there.
God, crikey, look at that mansion.
Bloody oath, I'm going to live there one day. I don't know why we're putting on this accent. Because it's New South Wales, right? That's how they talk. If you think of an Australian accent, it's the East Coast. It's not South Australia.
It's funny because I grew up in New South Wales, in Queensland, and in South Australia. So I've lived for over a decade in each of those states. In New South Wales, it was Sydney. In Queensland, it was Cairns. In South Australia, it was Adelaide. And I feel like, push to come to shove, I probably sound more from Adelaide now than I do other places. But when you go back to Sydney, and I hesitate to say this, but I suppose it actually sounds more ochre to me now than it did when I was younger.
Back when you were sort of
more a part of it. Yeah. But it's obviously Sydney still has this kind of tingy sort of Australian accent to it. Then you go to Queensland and you're just like full-blown Australian accent, right?
Well, that's even the place name, Cairns.
Cairns, yeah. But then you come to Adelaide and it's like you're transported to England.
Just like this.
Yeah.
Now, sure.
Well,
I don't think we can claim to have an English accent over here, but I do think
but it's more English.
We use the long A's.
Yeah, it's more English inspired than the other states, I think.
Yep. We have a pasty, not a pasty.
Sure.
While we sit on the grass.
Just the fact that you know that just is impressive to me. Just so you know.
But either way, as we continue, if there are any quotes from anyone in New South Wales, I will continue to use the Simpsons Australian accent.
Is that like gore cracky?
That's it. I'd have called them Chazwazzers.
It's probably more Queensland, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
And if we do more UK accents, I am going to be a drunk Irish pirate from Cornwall.
Perfect. It's the way to play it.
Sure enough, 8 years later, on June 3rd, 1963, Reginald, his wife Olive, and their 3 children moved into their new home, which Reginald then set about restoring to its former glory. The family still live alongside their spiritual lodges, and an uneasy truce prevails. For any outside visitors, however, it is quite a different story. Okay. Is Reginald Ryan the first guy to employ the secret?
Do tell. I know the book, but I feel like you should explain it to our listeners.
Sure. The secret was a whole self-help fad from several years back of being like, if you just visualize what you want, the universe will give it to you, man.
It was an interesting concept, The Secret. I do think that there was levels to what they were talking about, because I think
at first it sounds like self-help, and then you go a little bit deeper and it turns out it's just a scam.
That's obviously one way of looking at it. The Secret is like a book talking about a concept. It doesn't necessarily have to be a scam, just so you know, because like...
It was, though.
Sure, but like you can just have that idea, right?
Look,
Visualizing your goal.
We're not a scam podcast. I'm not going to go into it.
Sure, but bear with me for a second, because I think that there is validity to visualizing a goal and aiming for that goal, and just being able to be more directed towards it. So in theory, like spirituality aside, working with the universe...
Spirituality aside in this podcast about
Sure.
hauntings.
Sure, but I mean, if you focus on a goal and you think about how you're going to get there, you are going to be more likely to get there, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Depending on your goal.
Now, all of that included, seems like a bit of a monkey's paw, though, right? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna live there, and then he gets his wish, and it turns out the place is haunted.
Apparently, we made friends with the ghost, though.
Yeah, uneasy truce is...
Have you ever seen, Beetlejuice?
Okay. Yeah, all right.
I'm imagining the end of Beetlejuice.
Sure. That's not an uneasy truce. That's real friendly.
That's more friendly when like they pick her up and they dance her around. Yeah. And she's like...
I'm thinking more like The Others, perhaps.
Ooh, I haven't seen The Others. What's it about?
If I attempt to describe what it's about, I will accidentally spoil it. But it's a ghost story. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that. Check it out. It's good. It's legitimate good. Also, cameo by Daniel Craig.
By no means did you give anything away. So we've got an uneasy truce between the family,
Reginald, Olive, and their 3 children.
And family.
The Ryan family.
So it's an uneasy truce. Is that what I said?
Yes. For outside visitors, however, it is quite a different story.
So we're imagining them getting up in the morning. They go to brush their teeth.
Every morning they're brushing their teeth. They close the medicine cabinet. The ghost is in the reflection. They're just like, Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, I remembered to brush my teeth today. Don't forget to floss.
Okay, I'll remember to floss.
Floss off, Elizabeth.
Originally comes downstairs, having coffee with Olive. Ghost told me to floss again today. Sometimes I wish they'd get their own life.
By far the strongest ghostly presence in the homestead is that of Elizabeth Crawley. She is most often seen in the converted chapel, wearing black and carrying a large silver cross. So,
sounds like a martyr.
Not like vampires, I guess.
Pretty sure that's a myth.
I'm pretty sure this is all myths.
And that's what Dracula told me anyway.
Her presence is extremely domineering, and she is very particular about what goes on in her house, and does her best to unsettle any guests. She has been known to order people out of the dining room, and an icy atmosphere descends whenever her spirit is present. Okay, a draft could explain the cold dining room, but the draft is not going to explain a ghost just saying, like, get out!
That does sound uneasy.
Yeah. She's just being a jerk.
Okay, so this is only to visitors.
Only to visitors, apparently, yes. Yeah.
So they're basically having that conversation, being like, "Oh yeah, sorry about her."
Or Reginald and Olive, let's say they're entertaining guests, and it's getting like way past time when the guests should be leaving. It's got to like 1 o'clock, and they're like, we need to go to bed. It's Sunday. The kids have school in the morning. Reginald just nudges Olive, and Olive's like, "Well, get out!" Oh, did you hear that? It's the ghosts. The sound of loud footsteps on hard wooden floors can be heard around the house. This is unsettling, but even more so when you consider the whole house is now carpeted.
I was just thinking like a cool device would be like a little like panic button, not panic button, but like a button under the table, and then
It like starts making knocking sounds.
Yeah, exactly. and then you turn around.
Getting your guests out, or for holding a séance. Where was I? Yes, so the whole house is carpeted? I guess I can believe that.
Not a big carpet fan. Just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah, no, we got floorboards and rugs in here. Rugs is what you need when you got floorboards, though. Welcome to second-hand interior decorating.
Well, at least rugs were replaceable, right? Like, so if you know,
especially if you've got pets.
The other thing I think it just like looks nicer. I've always been like a hardwood floor fan, you know.
They wear a lot better.
Yeah, it's easier to clean up in general.
They wear better than Elizabeth and Christopher Crawley did.
Yeah, and I honestly think the idea of a disgusting carpet is like a horror of itself.
Yeah, I mean, my house is carpeted, but yeah.
I'm sure your carpet is pristine, though. Just like the best carpet.
Yeah, certainly wasn't an ex-rental. An apparition of a young woman in period dress has been seen gliding slowly along the front balcony. Wait, who then? We haven't heard that the Crawleys had any children. So who could this ghost be?
If it's the most haunted house, it could be haunted through generations. So, I mean, let's not...
Christopher Crawley built it, though. We know who's owned it the whole time.
Fair enough. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whoops, indeed, most haunted house in Australia. I guess they had a
People in
guest
the
there that
area.
died, or they had children that have gone unmentioned here that died.
Sure. Well, maybe...
I'm sorry. The story explains it immediately.
Oh, okay, sure. I was about to speculate all over the place, but I guess...
Nope. A pregnant maid jumped to her death from this very spot.
Okay.
Yep. The blood-stained steps below were cleaned with bleach, but to this day, you can still see the discoloration.
So you need to get some new steps.
Pregnant maid jumped to her death. I wonder which Crawley made that happen.
I don't know, man, but I'd be out there with a sander. Stuff this bleach, just like rip it apart.
Good luck. It's probably a bloody historic building these days.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What they don't know can't be
Haunt
prosecuted for.
The second story of the house has witnessed at least 3 deaths. A young woman died. I'm noticing a trend. A young woman died after a particularly long and torturous labour, and Christopher Crawley himself died in what is now known as the boys' bedroom. Sad faces are often seen staring in through the second-story windows, even though there is no balcony outside. Oh. So his boys are sleeping at night in their bedroom, and from the second story, there's ghosts peeking in.
It's like, ooh, what you doing?
This is way scarier than Mark Alexander.
Did you stay in a place like that overnight?
Do I have a choice? I guess. I mean, they live there, right? Reginald Ryan, after he'd visualized himself living in the house, and then 8 years later managed to buy the house, fix it all up, and then his kids say, "Hey, Dad, there's creepy ghost boys looking in through the windows at night." And he's like, "We are not moving. I spent the last 8 years trying to buy this place." It's basically Amityville, right? That's the story with that, I think. Except with pigs. The atmosphere surrounding the staircase is one of the most disturbing in the whole house. Today, many young children become extremely frightened and agitated when in the vicinity. Some have even been known to have asthma attacks. Do you think they just don't clean the stair carpets?
I was going to say
It's
that,
just
like dust.
yeah.
It was an interesting thing to focus on.
Yeah. Oh, we're just
Asthma
talking-
attacks. Ghosts.
Yeah, what?
When I think of ghosts, it's more I think of like, disembodied heads and...
Not asthma.
Not asthma, no. Balls of light. What was that?
Orbs.
Orbs, that's right.
Of
Balls
light.
of light.
Yeah. This is less surprising when you learn that the Crawley's baby girl was dropped from her nanny's arms down the stairs to her death.
Oh, gross.
Fucking hell.
Sorry.
Is that the same nanny that then killed herself? Because...
So I said gross. What I meant was incredibly sad and tragic.
Yeah.
And yes, that is incredibly sad and tragic.
it gets creepier. The horrified nanny claimed that the baby had been pushed out of her arms by an unseen force. I mean, that just sounds like she's covering for an accident, doesn't it? Whoops. It was a ghost.
Look, to be honest, if I was her, I'd be looking for a way out of that scenario as well, right? Not to mention that she would be, like, horrified.
You'd be traumatized.
Yeah, by what happened to her. Like, what... Obviously, it's worse for the baby. But I'm just...
Baby doesn't have to live with it.
But I was just saying... Clearly not. But, like, I was going to say, like, obviously that would be a horrific thing to happen to a person as well, right? So they would live out their days knowing that they... like accidentally snuffed out the life of a child before it had a chance to live. So,
Yeah.
sad times. So what were we doing?
Whatever the truth of the matter, a menacing aura still lingers. Outside the house, the forlorn figure of a vulnerable young boy is often seen loitering in the vicinity of the coach house. This was the scene of a tragic death of the stable lad Morris, who slept in the stables, was too ill to get up for work one day. They make him sleep in the stables?
I think that was more common than you'd think.
In the 1900s? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I used to hear about that all the time, like from old stories. Like I feel like I've often heard about like old stories where they had the people who used to like sleep in the stables. Yeah, I mean, one could only hope they've got cots at the very least. So
yeah, I hope they're at least like sleeping in the loft with a bed or something.
It's one would only hope that they weren't sleeping on the hay, but you don't know. You don't know. It's like I haven't done the deep dive,
And I'm not going to. His boss did not believe him and set fire to his bedding. Poor Morris was too sick to escape and burned to death where he lay. Fuck, Morris had a hard goddamn time. Do you think the boss was one of the Crawleys or just someone employed by them?
We've been talking about the Crawleys a lot, but yeah, like clearly they have staff, and maybe one of the reasons why it is so haunted was because of the horrible things that have happened to the staff as well. So we've got the Crawleys, the creepy Crawleys.
Oh fuck! Forgot. How did I forget?
So the creepy Crawleys, which are the runners of the house, and I guess it's a big mansion.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
like which obviously I'd want to stay in. Like, that's a tourism thing in itself, right? Haunted mansions to stay in.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the unsaid thing here. I guarantee that this building is now a hotel or some sort of guest house, and they're trading on the haunting stories. But...
Macabre tourism. So, I guess like when we were talking about the story originally, and I think if it was haunted by the creepy Crawleys, but it's such a big house, they would have had all these staff that potentially lived and died, and we're hearing about these pregnant women that are falling downstairs and babies like getting dropped, and there must have been like a lot going on, like
there's some massive negligence happening in this workplace, right? Which it is a workplace, right? If you employ people to work in your homestead, that's a workplace.
At some point you get so rich that your whole house is a workplace.
Yeah, and your workplace is your house. The most recent tragedy happened in 1961, after a local youth had watched repeated showings of the movie Psycho.
Uh-oh.
Late at night, he crept up the grounds of the homestead, carrying his rifle, and shot dead the caretaker, Jackie Simpson.
Wow.
Oh, to this day, you can see the words "Die Jack Ha Ha" inscribed in a macabre scrawl on the wooden door of the caretaker's cottage.
Wow.
What the fuck? If that's true, I understand some of the controversy around the movie Psycho, to be honest.
Well,
Who let a child have a rifle?
I don't think we think about how many restrictions and safeguards we have in our society these days compared to what we did, 50, 60
this is
years
50
ago.
years ago.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to see how much of our society has changed in the last 50, 100 years.
Yeah. Monte Cristo has been featured on many television programs and has been visited by many paranormal investigators. No one has ever come away without seeing something strange or feeling very uncomfortable. This melancholy old mansion is open to the public, so go visit if you dare. The end.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
That's it. And I feel like...
The end of the creepy crawly Monte Cristo.
I feel like we might be more spot on about the whole trading on their haunted reputation than actually being haunted.
Oh, how so?
Because that's their business now.
Oh, right, of course.
It's
yeah.
like-
right.
If it's open to the public and letting paranormal investigators and stuff in, that's absolutely what's going on there. I am impressed that at least some of the dead people have names in this story.
So would you stay in the Monte Cristo mansion for a night?
Well, I don't think it's a hotel. I think it's more like a tourist attraction where you can come and check it out.
More like just do a tour as opposed to stay for the night.
Yeah.
But
However,
just for fun.
if I had the opportunity, hell yeah, of course, absolutely. Was the question, though, would I stay there or would I sleep there? Because I don't know if I could sleep.
I mean, considering I've always considered you to be a very skeptical person that never really believed in ghosts, I mean, you'd have nothing to be afraid of, would you?
No, I just want to try and catch a sight of these ghosts.
Oh,
I've been watching them like, come on.
Right. Okay.
Where are you, ghosts?
So it wouldn't be like you couldn't sleep because you'd be worried about what might happen to you. It's more like you couldn't sleep because you'd just be wanting to
Yeah, I'd be recording every...
Yeah, sure.
thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think that we need skeptical people that are constantly looking out for evidence. I would rather a skeptical ghost hunter than a non-skeptical ghost hunter, in all fairness. Because then you know that if they find a ghost,
Yeah.
right, it's probably real.
Yeah. I don't want to go trying to prove that it's not happening. I'd be going into it hoping that it did happen. Because that's the more interesting thing. I doubt that it would, to be honest.
Yeah, I've heard skeptical ghost hunters before using that sentiment that they go out there hoping, like they want to find a ghost.
It's not a really widespread thing, though, because it's not a business opportunity like being a credulous ghost hunter would be. Like, you can't make a show out of things not happening, I guess.
Sure.
Well, you can, but it's not as interesting.
I guess that's the commercial aspect of ghost hunting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to kind of have some bumps in the night to keep the entertainment.
Yep. And you can get those bumps in the night real easy by just having a crew in the house with you.
Bumping away?
Yeah. Bumping away. I think we should probably end on that there, shouldn't we?
Sure.
And perhaps get together with some more accidental innuendo next time on
Second-Hand Haunting.
Haunting.
I think we're getting good at that.